originally from New York City. I've lived here since 1973.
And you were, sorry, you were a Marine, so I had to...
Obviously, yes, yeah. I served in the Marine Corps in Vietnam from December 1966 to December 1967.
So what did you do in Vietnam? What was that daily life for you like?
Well, in Paris Island, everybody took an IQ test. It's called a GCT. And even though I goofed off in school like a lot of teenagers, I had a high GCT. Now, how the Marine Corps figures a high GCT equates to being in the post office, I don't know. When I got to Vietnam, my commanding officer went through personnel records and found out that I was the only man in the company with a military driver's license. So of course I got volunteered to be the company driver. You know, you don't have, when somebody tells you to do something in the military, if it's not a crime, you don't have any other choice but to say yes. So I ended up being the company driver. 3 or 4 times a week I'd be driving all over the place. And what I mean all over the place is not just Da Nang, but way out in the country. 50, 60, 70 miles sometimes. No convoys, no heavy weapons, no radio. If the bad boys would have blown myself and my staff sergeant away, they'd still be looking for us to this day. And I was like 19, 20 years old. I was incredibly naive about what I was doing. Because I had this notion that, well, I'm in service and supply, so I'm over here, and the infantry's over there where the war is. No, that's not so. The war is all around you. And how did I get smartened up? One day I had a lieutenant in a Jeep with me, and I came into this village that was about 40, 50 miles south of Da Nang, and somebody had posted a sign up there in the Marine Corps colors, yellow and red. Speed limit, 10 miles an hour. So without thinking, I slowed down. Well, the lieutenant took my helmet, because I put it on the floor of my Jeep like that, because in the rough roads it would bounce around. And he smacked me in the head with the helmet, and he says, "Drive faster, stupid, you're in Indian country." And after that, anytime I got outside the perimeter wire, it was 62 miles an hour all the way. Why 62 miles an hour? That's as fast as that Jeep would go.
What is it like when you realize that you're not in Kansas anymore, basically?
I really didn't think of it. You know, you're there. You're not going to go home unless you're badly wounded or you're dead. So you just do your job every day. Hopefully you'll get through it. And then the time will come when somebody's going to tell you, hey, pack up, you're going home tomorrow.
So what was it like when you had to tell your family you were going over to Vietnam?
Oh, they knew it already. You know, it was evident because at that time period, the people were shipping out and they weren't getting shipped out to Europe. That everybody knew where I was going, even without me saying it. And I was one of the few people in the early days of Vietnam that went to Vietnam by ship, not by plane. Went from San Diego to Okinawa to Da Nang Harbor in South Vietnam.
Short ride?
No, not. We left San Diego. I'm trying to think. San Diego. We left December 5th, 1967, and we didn't get to Da Nang until, well, remember we crossed the international date line, so it was December 28th, 1966, and landed December 28th, 1966.
Talk about that time period, knowing you were heading over there. You had that whole ride over. You had to be anticipating just what was happening, at least thinking something about what was happening.
Actually, a lot of us didn't. We just, you know, we avoided it. We just talked. We talked about what city you came from, playing football in high school, girls, etc., etc. But nobody really gave it any thought until the ship docked in Da Nang, and now we're here. And then all of a sudden there's like a dead silence. Nobody talks about anything. You know, we're just looking around like a bunch of souvenir hunters, because it's all strange to us. First thing off the boat, I should say, first thing off the ship, we encountered some Vietnamese soldiers walking down the road on the west side of the airfield, and they're holding hands. And we had not been taught anything about the customs of the Orientals. We learned later that holding hands was a sign of familiarity, familial closeness, or solidarity between friends. But our initial reaction to that was we looked at them and like, oh God, is this what the hell we're here for? But there was other cultural things that we learned too, like, I'm gonna take my hat off and show you. Don't pat a Vietnamese on the head, because their customs and their thoughts was you're gonna steal their soul. And the other rude awakening, we live in America. Color TV, air conditioning, flush toilets. And as we're going down the road to the headquarters battalion of the 1st Marine Division, this old mama-san comes out of the hut, goes in her backyard, pulls her pants down, squats over a hole in the ground, does whatever she's going to do, stands up, pulls her pants back on, and walks right back in the hut. And we looked at each other and said, oh God, we got 13 months of this?
What were some of the good times you at least had while you were there? I hope it wasn't all bad.
No, every once in a while we'd have like no time to do anything, so we'd move all the trucks out of the parking lot, and being basically kids, we played football in a rock-laden parking area. Whether we had combat boots or sneakers was irrelevant. We just played. Didn't make a difference to us. And that was basically all the fun we could have. There was nothing else. There was no place that was big enough to organize, let's say, a softball game or a baseball game. And every day was just about the same routine over and over and over again, except for me, because like I said, 3-4 times a week, by 6:30 in the morning, I'd be gone. I'd be out somewhere with a staff sergeant, going to other postal units or going to infantry units to find out what they needed from us. And I could be gone 8, 10, 12 hours.
What was communication like for you with your family back home?
It was either by letter or you could record a tape. It was not like a DVD, but I mean actual reel-to-reel tape. And because we were in Vietnam, we could send all that stuff home free. All you had to do in the upper right, instead of a stamp in the upper right corner, you'd write FPO 96602. That was the Fleet Post Office. And then write free with it, and it went free, even the little tapes. Because it was considered, the post office considered those little tapes a letter. They came in a box about that big.
I've seen those recordings from my uncles.
Yeah.
What were some of did you have any like letters that stood out to you that came from home to you?
No, it was just ordinary letters back and forth from my parents and to my friends who were still in New York. Here and there, I'd write to some of the girls I knew, but there was nothing special about the letters. Just same correspondence like in any war, that from the soldiers or Marines to their families and back again. That's all.
Did it mean anything to get those letters?
Oh yeah, I mean it was nice to get them, but it was nothing earth-shaking like, oh my God, my cousin had a baby. That kind of stuff. No, that didn't happen. It was family letters and letters from friends. Once in a while, I would ask my parents for something. Now that would be a big deal. Like one time they sent me 10 pounds of pastrami, or another time they sent me like 8 pounds of pepperoni, and because of the ethic of you got to share this with all the other guys too. So with all that pepperoni, I got a piece for myself that was only about that big. But it worked both ways. When they got something, they shared it all with us. So it's not like you're going to hoard the thing. That's one of the worst things you could possibly do, because then nobody else is going to trust you after that. You're not one of the boys.
How good did that pepperoni taste there?
Just like pepperoni's supposed to taste. Can I have a can of beer with that? But the enlisted men were not allowed to have beer. Although once in a while we'd get our hands on a little bit.
What when your time was up, what was transitioning back to the U.S. like for you?
It's difficult, to describe because I was home in New York, but my head was still in Vietnam. And I wanted to go register at a college. I wanted to go back to school. Because one of the things I learned about being in the Marines, not that I hate the Marines, but the war in Vietnam, there's got to be a better way to make a living and have a profession than get shot at on a regular basis. Well, I decided I was going to go back to school, and this time I was going to pay attention. So on the Monday morning after I get home, I started to put my uniform on again, and I was going to go up to City College in New York to see what do I got to do to register. And my mother went crazy. She told me, she says, first of all, she says, you're not in the Marines anymore. Get out of that uniform. But Mom, I don't have any clothes that fit me. She says, if you go to Manhattan with that uniform, she says, I'm afraid you're not going to come back. Because there are people who would jump you and beat the hell out of you because you were a warmonger and a baby killer ad nauseum. So I did what she said. I just changed into civilian clothes. And sometimes you didn't tell people that you'd been in Vietnam because you'd get a really, really nasty reaction out of that. And sometimes you'd find girls on campus, oh, nice guy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but what were we doing for those years that you didn't go to college? Oh, I was in the Marines in Vietnam. Goodbye social life. They wouldn't talk to you. It's like you had a communicable disease.
How have you healed from that kind of that backlash that when you got home? How's that?
I'm not sure I would talk about it in terms of like healing. I personally, I can't speak for any of the others. I just grew out of it. I had other things to concentrate on. I'd gotten married, we had a baby, and I was going to school. And my job was to satisfactorily complete the 5 years of School of Architecture. Architecture is considered it's a professional degree rather than just an ordinary undergraduate degree. That's why it took me 5 years, where it takes most undergraduates 4 years. And then the object after that is you work and you study and you listen and learn, and then after a minimum 3-year internship, you take a licensing exam. An architect has to be licensed just like an attorney, a dentist, a psychiatrist, etc., because you're dealing with the public health, safety, and welfare. So my focus on that and being married to an exceptional woman, that's a lot of what got me through all the stuff about Vietnam. And then over time, I just learned not to talk about it. That's all. Most people didn't want to hear about it. The only ones who would want to hear about it is somebody else who was there. Because you have that bond in common, regardless of what service it is. But civilian life, nobody wanted to know about Vietnam. It was like asking a rabbi, hey, can I sleep with your wife? You just didn't do it. Not a good thing to do. And it just, over a period of time, it just dissipated until the truth really about Vietnam came out many, many years later. And then society began to accept us and then tell us things like, well, you did what you were asked to do, thank you for your service. And all I do in return is just say, okay, thank you for saying that.
How is being around situations like this where you get to, you do get that welcome, you do get that appreciation?
Well, I just tell them in return, thank you for saying that, and I just leave it at that. And once in a while, like yesterday, there were some kids, teenagers, and one or two of them told them that when they get out of high school, they're going to join the Marines. I'm going into the Marines in July or something like that. So I told them, I said, my advice to you is, it's not going to be long and wordy. And when you get to Paris Island, keep your mouth shut and your ears open. And that's all. But nobody's going to have an understanding of what we actually lived through. Whether you were infantry or forward air controller, only those other guys out there. None of you and the production crew, none of the visitors, they can listen, but they can't understand what it was like. You don't know what it's like to be shot at, and you don't want to find out. And one of the worst things when you walk into that hut and the guy that you knew yesterday is not there anymore, and his bed space is completely empty because he's 19 years old and he's not coming back. So any of these fools in Washington or in the Congress who talk about, we need to do this and we need to do that, sometimes maybe you do need to do it. But think about what you're getting into before you run your mouth and send the troops over.